Welcome to our very last section in Unit 5, and we're going to talk today about fermentation. The last section was dealing with cellular respiration that was aerobic. So we were talking about cellular respiration occurring in the presence of oxygen, and now we're going to take a look at cellular respiration that occurs without oxygen. It's called anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration occurs in yeasts. Here's a picture of some yeast, some prokaryotes. It also occurs in red blood cells and muscle cells. The process of fermentation is responsible for producing products such as vinegar, alcohol, cheese, and yogurt. So those things are all byproducts of the process of fermentation. And the purpose of fermentation is to release energy from sugars. That's the same purpose as aerobic cellular respiration. However, the process of fermentation releases energy from sugars without using oxygen. A couple of different kinds of fermentation. One is lactic acid fermentation. That takes place in our muscle cells. And alcohol fermentation is something that occurs with yeast organisms. We're going to look now at the specific steps in fermentation. Fermentation always starts with glycolysis, which is the same step that begins aerobic cellular respiration. But we also have the process of fermentation. The second stage in fermentation is just fermentation. So let's start with the first step, glycolysis. Once again, it is in the cytoplasm, just like in aerobic cellular respiration. And just like in aerobic cellular respiration, we're going to start with a molecule of glucose. And we're going to end with 2 pyruvate molecules. And we get ATP that is produced in this process. This is just the same as what we see in aerobic cellular respiration. Now here is where we differ. Here's the glycolysis process once again. We differ as we use the pyruvate molecules, and that process is called fermentation. It continues in the cytoplasm. So we never enter into the mitochondria. We stay in the cytoplasm for this process of fermentation, and those pyruvate molecules are converted into one of 2 things, either lactic acid or alcohol. Remember, if they're converted into lactic acid, that's going to occur in muscle cells, and that's lactic acid fermentation. If those pyruvate molecules are converted into alcohol, they will also give off carbon dioxide, and that is a process that occurs in yeast. And here we're going to just take a quick review of our cellular energy transformations. We're going to look at photosynthesis, aerobic cellular respiration, and anaerobic cellular respiration, and we're going to compare those. So I've made a little chart here for you to do that. If we look at these 3 different processes, and we look at the location of them, we recall that photosynthesis took place in the chloroplast. Aerobic cellular respiration takes place in the cytoplasm and the mitochondria. Anaerobic cellular respiration takes place only in the cytoplasm. Our source of energy for these 3 transformations, light provides the energy for photosynthesis, and for both aerobic and anaerobic cellular respiration, glucose provides the energy. What we start with for these reactions. For photosynthesis, we're going to start with carbon dioxide, water, and light energy. For aerobic and anaerobic cellular respiration, we start with sugar, and obviously for aerobic cellular respiration, we also have oxygen. The products, what do we produce in the reaction? Well, photosynthesis produces sugar and oxygen, whereas our cellular respiration, our aerobic cellular respiration produces ATP, energy, CO2, carbon dioxide, and water. Our anaerobic cellular respiration produces ATP, and it either produces lactic acid or alcohol and CO2, depending on what type of fermentation we're talking about. The purpose of each of these processes. Photosynthesis, its purpose is to use light to make food. And both cellular respiration types are using food to make energy. Other interesting facts. Obviously, aerobic cellular respiration needs oxygen, and anaerobic cellular respiration does not use oxygen. So that's a very quick review of all of these, and you need to definitely study all of the intricacies of each of these processes so that you'll be able to compare and contrast them, and you can understand what each one of them is talking about. So if you'd like some advanced proficiency, here are a few ideas for you. Certainly you're not limited to these. You're welcome to look at any of these processes more in depth and explain them more fully. We've just pretty much touched on an overview of them. They get much more intricate, and there's a lot more going on that's very interesting to look at. So if you'd like some advanced proficiency, look into that, and I look forward to seeing what you have to show me.